In the age before empires, when the world was still young, there was a land where men spoke not of fear, but of honor. They called it Sparta, a city carved not from stone but from discipline, from the sweat and blood of warriors who believed that courage was sacred. Every child of Sparta was born to serve one purpose: to stand when all others would fall. And among them, there rose a king, Leonidas, son of the lion, a man whose every word carried the weight of destiny. He had no golden throne, no palace made of marble, only his shield, his spear, and a promise. A Spartan's duty, he once said, is not to live forever. It is to ensure that freedom does. Far to the east, an empire stirred. The Persian king Xerxes, lord of countless armies, demanded the submission of all Greece. Cities bowed one by one, trembling before the shadow of his fleet. But in Sparta, silence answered. No tribute, no surrender. Only a message carved into the hearts of men. Come and take them. When the council of Greece trembled, Leonidas stood tall. He knew the gods themselves had weighed his fate. To resist Persia meant certain death, but to bow meant the death of everything Sparta stood for. And so he gathered his finest, 300 men, each a living blade of iron and will. They were not chosen for their strength alone, but for the sons they would leave behind, to remind the world that freedom had a price. They marched not as an army, but as a message to the gods. Through valleys of dust, across rivers of stone, their sandals struck the earth like thunder. Farmers laid down tools to watch them pass. Mothers whispered prayers, and even the winds of Greece seemed to bow as they crossed. By the seventh day, they reached the hot gates, Thermopylae, a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea, where numbers meant nothing and courage meant everything. Leonidas stood at the cliff's edge, watching the sun bleed across the horizon. Behind him, his brothers. Before him, the endless sea. He turned to his men. "Tonight," he said, "we dine in hell." They laughed, not because they doubted him, but because they understood. To a Spartan, death was not defeat. It was the final proof that he had stood his ground. That night, as torches flickered in the wind, Leonidas walked among his men. Some sharpened blades, others wrote letters home they would never send. But none spoke of fear, only of pride, only of duty. He gazed at the stars above and whispered, "Father, if this is to be my last dawn, let it be one the gods remember." And so began the march of immortality. 300 men against an empire. Next dawn, the mountains trembled. A shadow rolled across the horizon, not from storm clouds, but from men. An army stretched as far as the eye could see. The banners of Persia, black, red, gold shimmered in the morning light like fire across the sea. Xerxes had come. His soldiers numbered in the hundreds of thousands, a tide of blades and shields, each man another drop in the endless wave. But at the narrow pass of Thermopylae, 300 Spartans stood like the edge of a spear. Beside them, a few thousand Greeks from allied cities, Thebans, Thespians, Phocians, men who had chosen honor over life. Leonidas stood at the center, his spear planted in the earth, his eyes calm as if he faced not death, but destiny. "Remember this," he said quietly. "Each breath we take now belongs to Greece. Let us make every one of them count." The first wave came like thunder. Arrows darkened the sky. The Spartans raised their shields, the sound of impact echoing like rain upon stone. Then the Persians charged, a roar of thousands. But the narrow pass betrayed them. Only a handful could advance at once, and there, in that corridor of death, the Spartans made their stand. Spears thrust forward, shields slammed. The line did not break. One by one the Persians fell, their armor ringing against the stones like a dirge. Leonidas moved like lightning, his blades singing through the air. He fought not as a king, but as a brother among brothers. Blood, sweat, and dust filled the morning air, and through it all, the cry of Sparta, "Mollen labe! Come and take them!" Wave after wave, the Persians crashed against the wall of shields. Each time they broke, each time the Spartans pushed them back into the sea. Hours passed. Bodies littered the sand. The air reeked of iron and salt. But still, they stood. At sunset, Xerxes sent forth his finest, the immortals, the elite soldiers of Persia. Their faces masked in silver, their eyes hidden. Leonidas watched them approach and smiled. "Good," he said. "Now the gods will see something worth watching." The battle raged into the night. Torches burned low, shadows danced upon the cliffs. And when dawn came again, the pass was filled not with men, but with legends. By the third day, the sea ran red. The Spartans were weary, their armor cracked, their arms heavy, but their hearts burned brighter than ever. Xerxes had grown impatient. He could not believe mere mortals had defied a god. A traitor came to him, Ephialtes, a Greek driven by greed, who revealed a hidden path through the mountains. Through that betrayal, the Persians would surround them. Leonidas knew what it meant. There would be no retreat, no victory, only remembrance. He gathered his men. They stood in a circle, their shields battered, their faces blackened by smoke. "Brothers," he said, "we have stood against the impossible. Let our stand echo through eternity." They raised their spears one final time, and as the Persians poured down from the cliffs, the Spartans charged. The clash shook the mountains. Every Spartan fought like a man already dead, without fear, without hesitation. Their blades found targets faster than thought. Their shields struck like thunder. They fell one by one, but each time a man dropped, another stepped into his place. Leonidas fought until his weapon shattered. He seized a fallen sword, his body bleeding from a dozen wounds. Still, he roared, his voice carrying over the chaos. Sparta! Then, silence. When the dust cleared, Leonidas knelt, his spear broken, his body pierced by arrows. He looked toward the horizon, the rising sun bleeding gold across the sea, and smiled. May the world remember that free men stood here. The Persians found him still upright, his hand gripping his shield. Even in death, the king of Sparta would not kneel. For days the wind carried their names through the mountains. The pass where they fell became sacred. A stone was raised, and upon it were carved these words: "Go tell the Spartans that here we lie, obedient to their laws." History remembers kings and conquerors, but legends remember those who stood when they had no reason left to stand. For courage is not born of hope. It is born of duty. And though their bodies turn to dust, their light still burns. Glory is not in victory, but in the courage to stand.